Choice is a powerful thing in the hands of a gamer. It turns them into a storyteller, just like the developers, who can decide where the story will go and maybe how it will end. In recent years, many games have sold themselves on this idea, and companies like Telltale have built themselves around it. But what happens when they can't keep their promise? When we reach the end and learn that, in the words of Queen, nothing really matters. Today, we're taking a look at 10 games where your choices don't actually matter. But first, make the right choice by hitting subscribe to level up and join our notification squad. Game of Thrones. This is the first of 2 entries from Telltale's games. That's a little depressing considering they built their company around choice-based gaming, and considering the example we're using comes from the first episode in the game. Game of Thrones is filled to the brim with iconic characters that you can interact with. Eventually, you run into Ramsay Bolton, the sadistic and infamous madman. He attempts to take control of your family's valuable ironwood reserves. Not only that, he arrives with armed men and he threatens the lives of the children. As Ethan Forrester, you're given multiple options to deal with Ramsay as he focuses on your sister. Do you offer yourself instead of her? Demand that he leave her alone? Wait for him to cool down and perhaps work out a deal? Sure, try them all, because no outcome will be different. Ramsay will always stalk towards Ethan with a cheeky response and take him out with his blade. What else should we expect from a wildcard character like Ramsay? Still, there should have been a bit of a fight or a struggle depending on how you chose. Even if you die every time, a few quick time events would have been welcome. Batman Arkham City. Arkham City's open world gives players the freedom to live out the night as the Batman, taking out gangs, grappling between buildings, and maybe saving Gotham City again. Yet with all that freedom, you wouldn't say it was a choice-based game in the vein of others on this list. Well, you're right, mostly. See, there's this one shining moment of player input near the end. Batman is in a pretty bad spot and probably about to die. You then take control of Catwoman to finish the job she began in the first scene of the game. She robs the confiscated goods vault in City Hall and helps herself to the loot. As she tries to leave, she's confronted by 2 options: help out the Bat or walk out the door. Either is within the realm of possibility for Catwoman. Leave Batman and the credits will roll. You learn that Joker is won and is terrorizing the city. Then, the game literally rewinds to that critical moment, hoping you'll choose the noble path. That's kind of lame. The one and only choice you have is pointless. Clever maybe, but pointless. They could have at least ended the game for real and then give you the option to try again on the main menu. Batman was totally fine on his own. Catwoman even said so. BioShock Infinite. From the first trailer of Infinite, we knew we were in for a super philosophical experience. We were right. Near the beginning of the game, Booker wins a lottery during a festival in Colombia. His reward is to throw a baseball at an interracial couple as punishment for their being together. This is the first real choice the player is given. Throw it at the couple or at the game attendant. No matter what you decide, it doesn't affect the rest of the game. The same is true for other moments through the narrative, like picking the bird or cage necklace. But unlike other games on this list, the lack of importance is intentional. Here's where the philosophical stuff comes in. The game's director talked in detail about the lack of choice. He said he was more interested in seeing how these choices affect players in the moment rather than the game as a whole. The choices do matter, just to you. That's a much more valuable connection between developer and gamer than just a unique ending. He even said that he hadn't seen anyone throw the ball at the couple yet. They're testing your morality not with an in-game meter, but within your soul. Creepy. Pokemon. Everyone remembers their first starter in a Pokemon game. It was probably one of the most important decisions in your life, choosing who you thought could protect you and put up a good fight as you began your quest to catch them all. What made it more meaningful and stressful was the absolution in your choice. You couldn't hit undo, and the other 2 starters were not available in the wild. What you chose was what you got. Well, that's how it used to be anyway, in the good old red and blue days. In today's current Pokemon world, the developers have begun to take a backstep on this front. Since Pokemon X and Y, you've been able to trade starters online. It even offered a second set of starters a little later, meaning you'd get 2. Then in Pokemon Go, all 3 starters were available in the main game. Come on! Are they afraid to make us too stressed out from having to make a definitive decision? We did, and we turned out fine. This simple yet memorable way to start a game has been reduced to a meaningless holdover. We're gonna sound super jaded here, but kids today just don't understand. Beyond Two Souls. David Cage is always pushing the boundaries of gaming in terms of story and technology. After back-to-back hits with Indigo Prophecy and Heavy Rain, fans were more than eager for his next project. We were expecting the split-second decisions, small details with game-altering consequences, and movie-quality writing that made him famous. While we got most of that, it was nowhere near his first two outings. Sure, there are multiple endings, so there's a check for that. But those endings are determined by decisions made just before it, when you either choose to live or to be in the infraworld. Basically, whatever choice is offered to you, besides saving characters, have no consequences in the long run. Decide to choke out your father? No biggie. Steal money to pay for food when you're homeless? Who cares? Now compare this to Heavy Rain, where the multiple endings were influenced by the entire game. However it ended for you, it felt more meaningful because a variety of factors played into it, not just one choice in the last level. Cage has a chance to do it right next time with Detroit Become Human. We're rooting for him. The Stanley Parable. Beginning as an odd experimental mod for Half-Life 2, the Stanley Parable took the gaming world by storm. What starts as a simple office simulator grows into a bizarre exercise, breaking down the fundamentals of gaming as a whole. Many were anticipating a full standalone title to be released. When it finally dropped, things got even weirder. As Stanley, you're guided through the game by a GLaDOS-esque British narrator. He tells you everything to do and where to go, treating the whole game like a tutorial level. Then you're given the first opportunity to divert from the narrative. He says to open the left door, but you can open the right one if you want. This leads to the narrator trying to set you back on the correct path. More opportunities like this occur, and by ignoring the narrator, the game begins to go to some wild places. Many times by disobeying the narrative, Stanley will wind up dead in the end. This is a little more meta than we'd like, but hear us out. Basically, your choices don't matter in regards to the narrative the game is peddling. By making your own choices, the game begins to break down to avoid fulfilling the change. In a way, it's an anti-choice game. The choices don't matter because it doesn't want you to make any of them. Confused? We are. Fallout 4. After 7 agonizingly long years, Bethesda finally released Fallout 4 from its vault. The initial trailers looked like a direct return to the distinct Fallout style. While this was true in terms of gameplay and design, the story and dialogue mechanics had drastically changed. They introduced a new dialogue system where full lines were abbreviated to make things quicker. This caused a problem when the character would say something that wasn't quite what the player intended. For example, say the option on screen was, "No thanks." The character might elaborate and say, "Please never speak to me again." It's a minor change, but could mean the difference of someone walking away or pulling out a pulse rifle. The biggest issue is when some choices have no effect on the conversation at all. Take your talk with the Vault-Tec salesman at the beginning of the game. No matter how you talk to him, disinterested, angry, his approach never changes. Same goes for other mission-centered discussions where the player has to do something even if they choose to say no. Why give us this freedom if our choices will just be ignored? Firewatch. Firewatch was hyped up to be a brand new method in video game storytelling. It follows Henry, a fire ranger at a national park who's in communication with another ranger named Delilah. The story is driven by their conversations between walkie-talkies. They never interact face-to-face. It added a sort of mystery to the dialogue. With no face to match Delilah's voice to, you can never truly tell the meaning behind subtle inflections or comments she makes. With open dialogue choices, the game gives you a variety of ways to build a relationship between the characters. You can ignore her and keep things professional, advance romantically, or just stay good friends. Hours pass as the conversations grow and the pair try to uncover strange mysteries in the park. Everything seems to lead to a single point at the end, the possibility of finally meeting Delilah. Do you woo her enough to fall in love? Were you so rude that she doesn't want to see you? It doesn't matter. Whatever way you play, it always ends with her choosing not to meet you. That's ridiculous! Why give us the ability to shape this relationship any way we want if the payoff is meaningless? Players that worked so hard to kindle this romance are basically slapped in the face. Was it too expensive to create a second character model? The Walking Dead Season 1. In the last 10 years, no game has put us through such an emotional roller coaster as The Walking Dead. Along with the branching path storytelling, we were given an amazing cast of characters that felt real. Everyone had distinct personalities and relationships, which made those split-second decisions on who lives and who dies so much harder. After 5 thrilling and intense episodes and an uber-depressing ending, many were eager to relive it all again. And that's when they realized something. Your choices mean a whole bunch of nothing. Sure, different characters may be in the last episode, and Lee may be jumping between rooftops with no arm, but 90% of the ending will be the same for everyone. Characters you've kept by your side the whole game will die, like Ben. Lee will always die whether you cut his arm off or not. Clementine will always find Omid and Krista, who just die in the beginning of Season 2 anyway. Were we expecting too much? If they stuck to the branching narrative in the next season, then they would basically have to be making 2 or more different games based on each ending. It looks like they learned their lesson for Season 3 though, which apparently had 42 different start points. Nice job, guys. Mass Effect 3. The ending of Mass Effect 3 may go down in gaming history as the worst ending of all time. The series was built on the idea that the choices you made in each game would affect the entire story. As Commander Shepard, you'd be forced to make heartbreaking sacrifices and on-the-spot choices. Even small things at first could have a major impact 2 games later. After 5 years of build-up, we should have gotten a mind-blowing ending that felt unique for every player. Instead, we got to choose one of 3 colors: red, blue, and green, for a final cutscene where the galaxy blows up or it doesn't. Wow, that ending was great in red, but green makes it totally different. All sarcasm aside, this was a gigantic betrayal to dedicated fans by the developers. Everything we did was for naught. Whether you choose to control, destroy, or join the Reapers, Earth and everything else will almost always go up in smoke. Even personal choices are ignored. Shepard's flashback sequence seems to leave out major relationships and romantic partners. Would it really have been that hard to at least have a good or bad ending? At least then there could be some actual variety. Oh well. Better luck to the Mass Effect Andromeda trilogy. Maybe not. So, did we forget any games on this list? Which was the biggest disappointment? Please let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like this video and share it with a friend. Then check out our playlist for more awesome videos and definitely subscribe to keep up to date with the gamer. Thanks for watching.